welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So I think I see a trend one week and then the next week just throws me off. There are lots of interesting numbers within my sold and new listing portion today. So let's dive right in. I'm going to do a quick summary and then talk a little bit more. So Georgetown this week had 10 sales, normal week, only 8 new listings. So that is not great news for inventory levels. Acton had 3 sales, 2 new listings. Glen Williams, 1 sale, no new listings. No new listings or sales in Limehouse. The rural market also had 1 sale and no new listings. So a couple things I want to talk about when I was looking at the sold and new listing data. So firstly, there was 15 properties in total that sold in all of Halton Hills. So of those 15, 4 of them got over asking. So we are starting to see that come back. I've talked about it for a few weeks, but 4 of them over asking. 10 of the 15 properties were over $1 million, which is a huge shift. Like, that price point was really struggling to move. And so basically 10 of the 15 being over that $1 million plus is super interesting to me. This is just an interesting shift in our price points because that under $1 million was really what was moving. And so to see $1 million plus moving again, it means, I'm gonna assess it, I don't know. It means there's confidence in the market again, I think. I think those sellers are confident that they're gonna be able to move their homes. It was really like kind of scary to have $1 million plus home there for a bit. So really interesting, I'm going to be watching that closely. Another thing to talk about is the new listings. So we had 10 new listings in all of Halton Hills. Of those 10, so in the last week, of those 10, 4 of them have already sold. So what we're seeing is when a good home is coming on the market and you're pricing it correctly to the market, it is selling like immediately right now. And again, looking at the over askings with multiple offers on a lot of them. So really interesting shift in the market, but without that influx of new listings, like, we're never gonna get out of this. And I know it's gonna come, it always comes, but really interesting how the market is in sort of like a very low spot in terms of inventory and demand is very high. I'm super interested next week if our average price point is going to be up for March. It should. We've seen a lot of higher ticket sales, but next week's numbers are going to be really interesting. So another thing I wanted to touch on is someone commented to me that they saw another post and they asked me why that person's new listing numbers were so much higher than mine. And my answer is they're not actually filtering the information and combing through and pulling out relists. So for example, this week, there was 23 homes in Halton Hills that had a contract date of last Tuesday. But when I look at what expired, terminated, relist, all that, 13 of them were relists. So that brings me down to actually 10 new properties entering the market. If 123 Main Street was on last Monday for $9.99, and on Thursday they relisted it for $9.75, I cannot count that as a new listing. It's just essentially a price change. So my answer is the data is not necessarily getting filtered down. So if you ever like see another number and it doesn't match what you've heard on here, it's strictly because if you search contract date, new listings in the last week, you get a much higher number than what actually is a new listing. Because if I said there was 23 new listings this week, but our inventory is actually down by 6 units and we've only sold 15, there's a 8 unit gap there and the numbers just don't match. So I digress, but that's why like I really like comb and dive into these numbers. I find them really interesting, but accuracy of course is really important. So that's my little spiel on a question that I got this week. So looking at our active inventory now, last week we were at 112 active listings in Halton Hills and we are down to 106. Like, that's a huge drop this week. And it's not like going in the direction I thought. Last week sort of felt like this, it could have been the tipping point. It was not. We are right back down this week. Georgetown went from 64 active listings down to 60. So again, inventory dropping, not going in the direction we suspected. Only 60 listings in Georgetown. That has been like staying real consistent for the last 2 months. We see stuff come on, but it's getting bought, so our inventory is staying very stable. Looking at our price points, under 800,000 is down from 11 to 10 active listings. 800 to a million remain the same this week at 15. The notable price point is 1 to 1.5 million, went from 20 active listings down to 16. So quite a bit, like I talked about earlier, got bought in that price point. And 1.5 million plus is up slightly from 18 to 19 active listings. Again, that price point is just the slower price point, and we're not seeing much movement over the 1.5. But if that 1 to 1.5 continues to be really strong, we might see people feeling more confident selling their 1.3 and buying something in that 1.5 plus. So going to be interesting to watch that million plus as this market is sort of like climatizing to the interest rates. So looking at Acton, we're down from 12 to 11 active listings in Acton. That's starting to get pretty low there. Glen Williams is down from 8 to 7 active listings. Limehouse remains the same at 2 this week, and the rural market is at the same as last week at 26. So I think this is interesting only because we're not seeing an influx of listings. I mean, we had 8 new listings in Georgetown. That is a low number in general, and only 10 new listings in all of Halton Hills, and 4 of them are already purchased, like off the market, updated as sold. So the market is in a spot I did not think it would be in, like given what happened last year. So next week, I am going to have March's numbers. I suspect our average price is going to be up given how many sales we've seen over that million plus. What that's going to look like next week, we will see. But I think that the market is in a pretty strong spot, and eventually sellers are going to get that message. And I think we should start to see a new, more inventory coming up, like we should. But right now, it's just not happening week to week. So I will be back next Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone.